After some rough weather and bad conditions, the seas are calming. It's time to dust off the tackle, ice up the Yeti, and start thinking about going fishing. Tonight we're talking about Amberjacks here on the Chevy, Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Chevy, Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello everyone, we're back on the Chevy, Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we are talking about those AJs, but we also have a lot to catch up on. The passing of Hurricane Irma, which is still very much on all of our minds and has touched the lives of pretty much everyone in the state of Florida, in some areas more than others. And while there's still a lot of cleanup to do and rebuilding left, I know that we are all pitching in for those in need and will come out Florida strong in the end, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Bree. But you know, it wasn't just all the people in the state of Florida that were affected. You were affected a little bit too. Why don't you tell me about your weekend?
Just a bit affected. I got married on Saturday. It was kind of a crazy beginning. We didn't have power at the Jupiter Beach Resort until Thursday night, but my mom that day, after I had planned a whole new wedding at somewhere else outside at a bar, she tracked down Mark from FPL, and he specifically went to Jupiter Beach Resort and got the power back on for us and said that he wanted me to have my dream wedding. Oh. So it was a pretty special moment, and you know, I was affected in that way, and it was great. It turned out to be such a beautiful day, and you were there, so you saw.
Well, my sweet, I must say, you know, you planned your wedding 9 months ahead of time.
I did. I was
you
so
had
ready.
It so ready, and you were so perfect. But guess what? God has a sense of humor, and he decided he'd throw another woman into your life named Irma. And guess what? He took your power away for just a short time.
He did take my power away, and I learned a lot. Not everything's in your control, but it turned out beautiful, and it turned out better than I could have imagined. So, what do you say we say hi to Dave over there? He's pretty quiet.
He is.
Dave Farrell at the CCA Workbench.
Speaking of God's sense of humor,
yes,
that would be me.
And there you go.
If it had been my marriage, there definitely would have been no FPL dude running down there to get it. You had to give him, oh, please,
please help
me.
All right, well, we're going to talk to Dave a little bit later, but as you can see, we have a dedicated and awesome live audience tonight from Flagler Construction Equipment Group, who's going to help us get everyone back on the water doing what Floridians love to do most. So we're super excited. Starting us off is Captain Randy Tao, who's weathered the storm in the Keys, and he's going to give us an update on the fishing as well as what we can do to help with the devastation that was left behind from Irma. Hello, Randy.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. Congratulations, Bree. That was certainly an up note for your wedding, and hopefully it'll be a beautiful thing for you guys. But, you know, the last week, having to deal with Hurricane Irma throughout the Florida Keys, we've really got a dose of reality from several different angles. You know, the Keys stretch out 110 miles long, so the upper Keys, Key Largo, Islamorada, Tavernier, is not Key West. It's not Big Pine. And down further toward Marathon and below, that's really where a lot of this storm had the most impact, and the eye came over that region down there. And they certainly have a lot of cleanup to do, and there's a lot of help being brought down for those people. But the upper Keys, you know, we're starting to get back online. More restaurants are open. There's hotels open. We're kind of getting back to business. Not to forget what's going on down south, but certainly the upper Keys working our way down. You know, we're up and running. Islamorada's going to be up and running in the next few days. Marathon's next. And really, it's something that we all kind of come together as a small town helping each other. And God knows we've done a lot of yard work. We've done a lot of help with people cleaning things up and moving things out and getting stuff thrown out. So we're kind of you know, tired of the manual labor, and a lot of the fishing guides right now would really like to go fishing if there was some phone calls or people that wanted to go. It's not a bad time right now. I'm sure there's some fish around. They certainly haven't had any pressure in the last week, and that's one thing if you really wanted to help out with the fishing guide community throughout the Keys, whether it's Marathon, Tavernier, Islamorada, you know, look one of them up, come down and fish with them, and it would really make a big deal with a lot of the guys. We can do the yard work when we get home or another day, but the fishing would really be nice if that could come our way. Now, talking about fishing, if you wanted to go fishing, I would really recommend the edge of the reef right now, that water's still a little bit dirty, and I'll bet those yellowtails are going to be cooperating really nicely. Now, we don't know what the current's going to be doing, which direction it's going, but if you had some current, I would say the yellowtail bite might be really good. You're going to anchor in 60 to 70 feet of water. You're going to find that water moving, and you're going to be patient. That's one of the keys for good yellowtailing, is just to be patient, get your chum working, and let those fish come to you, and start with one rod at a time. And you'll be surprised how many more you'll catch that way than trying to fish 2 or 3 rods at one time. If you wanted to go offshore, certainly after some storms like this, you're going to have floating debris, you're going to have weed lines, you're going to have color changes, and you're going to have birds. So get out in that 600 feet and look for debris, look for birds, look for the weed lines, and I'm sure we're going to have some really good dolphin fishing coming up, and you're going to want to just be ready, have some live bait with you if possible, and don't be afraid to blind troll in areas that look favorable, and see if you can run across something floating or a bird, and I'm sure the dolphin fishing would be well worth going to do right now.
You know, Randy, I got a couple questions for you. You know, I talked to Chris Trossett down in Key West, and fortunately, Bree, a lot of the guys down there, they weren't nearly as affected as they were just up the road a little. And I understand that today they started allowing a limited amount of commercial flights. So a lot of those Key West guides, they're available to go fishing, as well as certainly in Islamorada and Key Largo. Now, Randy, I understand that a lot of the restaurants and hotels now in Islamorada are ready to go as well. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Now, some of your oceanfront resorts that got hit pretty hard, they're not going to be up and running for a little bit. But there's certainly plenty along the way, especially on the bay side, that have availability. As a matter of fact, I saw the La Jolla. I went by it today, and it said vacancy, and I know they have some rooms available. They cleaned up really quick. They wanted to get back online, so if people wanted to take advantage of some good fishing, they do have room.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Looking forward to the progress of the recovery, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Keys hotspots from the Florida Keys region. Inshore, due to dirty water, the inshore recommendation at this time is don't go. And then offshore, yellowtail snappers on the reef, and be patient. Fish 1 rod at a time, like our Captain Randy said. Dolphin also 600 to 1,200 feet of water, and you're going to look for the floating debris and weeds. So pretty simple.
Pretty simple. All right, now we're checking in with Andy Newman, who is on the line. Andy, we hope you and your family are okay, so why don't you tell us how everything is going down there?
Thank you, Bree, and congratulations. And gee, I wish I had that kind of influence to get my power restored. But
my mom.
One thing, I hope, Bree, that you're going to make plans to do your honeymoon in the Florida Keys at some point.
Heck yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
You got a hookup for her, Andy? She'll call you after the show.
Yeah, I'll be calling you.
Anyway, I'll echo what Randy said. You know, the impacts from Hurricane Irma in the Keys are quite varied. In the Upper Keys to Marathon, if you're on Bayside there or Gulf side, you know those facilities are in pretty good shape. The hardest impacts, guys, came in the lower Keys, and you know some of the damage is just incredible, quite frankly. But when you get down to Key West, you know which got the weak side of the storm, it really Key West fared really quite well. The good thing in talking to a lot of the light tackle guys and charter boats, they protected their boats. They either put them in the mangroves or some of them actually got them out of the Keys and brought them up to Miami and put them inside. So although there's a lot of boats out, there's about 1,300 boats, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, that are now derelict and have to be picked up. So you got to be real careful. If you're running a boat down there, you got to be very, very, very careful about where you're running. So still waiting for an official return date from Monroe County officials with regards to visitors. But every day there's a little bit of progress. There is almost 100% of power restoration, guys, from Key Largo down to Marathon for those that can take power. In Key West, some 95% power restoration. So we've gotten a tremendous amount of help to get the infrastructure back up online. I have to tell you a real quick personal story. that I find very funny. You know, I have a little place in Alamorada, and the ground level garage got about 2 feet of salt water, and we didn't have power for about 8 or 9 days. And my bait freezer down there, okay, I was dreading, just absolutely dreading going back in there and the stench. But we got power back a couple of days ago, and the freezer incredibly worked, and so all the chum and the bait, you know, froze up with the maggots, and it wasn't that bad.
Well,
one thing I'll go ahead.
I think you're not alone. I think anybody who's experienced any hurricane, that's happened to all of us, and I'm happy for you, Andy, that it froze back up and you don't have to go through that whole process. You can just throw the whole thing out at the same time.
Throw the maggots
yes,
out.
sir. Now, real quick, that folks, I know folks are interested in the recovery process, and so there's a website called keysrecovery.org. Again, keysrecovery.org. Great information, and of course, FLA-keys.com will have information too, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Andy. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of recovery going down there and helping out.
Absolutely.
All right, Tommy Derringer is joining us via FaceTime from the Strike Zone Northeast region. How's it going up there, Tommy?
Hey, guys. Hey, congratulations, Bree.
Thanks, I'm a married woman.
Should I say Mrs. Bree, I guess, right?
Mrs. Bree, I'm a Mrs., Miss to Mrs., that's how it goes.
Hey, guys, you know, I'm really glad to hear the Keys are starting to get back to normal. And, you know, speaking of getting back to normal, it really has gotten that way around here in the Strike Zone Northeast region. You know, we did have a lot of damage, a lot of flooding and stuff going on, but all the businesses are back open. Everybody's back out fishing. Now, of course, on the offshore side, there hadn't been a whole lot of that going on because the seas have been pretty rough here lately. But on the inshore side, you know, the bite's been pretty darn good. Now, there's still a lot of people that are out of their houses, just like everywhere else, you know, due to flooding and all that. So, you know, thoughts and prayers go out to those people. Now, as for our theme species this week, Amberjack, you know what? They're a Strike Zone Northeast region staple. You know, we catch them year-round, and they'll eat just about anything. And anyone that's ever caught one knows, you know, they're one of the toughest fighting fish out there. Those AJs, you know, they're chewing right now on the offshore wrecks. There's not a whole lot of guys getting out there, like I said, but I did speak to Captain Jason Hadges from J-Hook Fishing Charters. He tells me the water, it's still green and churned up out there, but those AJs, they're in 120 to 140 foot. He's targeting larger wrecks with the high profile coming off the bottom, and he's using anything from a live bait to a jig. When the water's a little calmer and cleaner, you know, Jason says one of his favorite ways to catch those amberjacks is to get them chummed up to the surface and toss a top water plug at them. Now, just remember to beef up those treble hooks, and because those AJs, you know, they can be monstrous. You can usually find those jacks on the nearshore stuff this time of year as well, even as close in as 9 Mile Reef. Again, you can use any kind of live bait or jig, but those nearshore fish, they can be a little pickier than the offshore ones, so if they don't want to bite, you might want to try chumming them heavily with something like pogies. That's usually going to get them in the mood to bite, and I've got a picture here. This is Captain Jason sent me this picture of one of his clients with a nice amberjack caught aboard the J-Hook in St. Augustine. Now, staying offshore, you know, there's also a pretty decent cobia bite happening. Again, not a whole lot of guys out there, and typically those cobia move in a little closer this time of year as the water starts to cool off. But I spoke with Captain Billy Hunsaker from Endless Summer Charters, and he said they've been catching a few in the 130 to 140 foot depths this week. You know, most of those cobia have been coming up to the surface, following the beeliners off the bottom, and also a variety of other fish that are coming up off the bottom. A pitch rod with just about any kind of live bait is going to get their attention, as well as a variety of jigs. And as we start to get more of a northeast wind flow and the water cools off just a little bit, look for those cobia to move in closer to some of those nearshore wrecks. Now, moving inshore, you know, inshore bite's been good, man. Ever since the storm's been gone by, the water's really murky, but you know, the fish are chewing. We've got a really great redfish bite happening this week. The flood tide fishing has been really good, with quite a few tailing redfish up in the grass. That flooded grass is happening right around mid-morning this weekend, and that's the perfect time to find those tailing fish. You're gonna have high sun, it makes it a little easier. Look for those areas that usually don't have water on them during a normal high tide. Get there a little early, watch for those redfish to be making their way onto the flat. Now, just about any kind of small soft plastic, rigged weedless, is gonna work, and it's also a great time to bust out the fly rod with a small shrimp or a gurgler. There's also a great redfish bite happening at the St. Augustine Inlet on the low tide stage. We killed them out there today. Live mullet fished on the bottom has been the ticket for those deeper fish. An hour on either side of the low tide has been the best bite. Now there's a lot of slot fish out there, but there's also some smaller ones and some really big oversized fish mixed in, so it's just a lot of fun. I got another picture here. This is EJ Etheridge with a nice redfish he caught on fly up in that flooded Spartina grass.
That's really cool fishing there, Tommy. I've done that with Russell. Man, it is so cool. All right, tell me about the snooking, man.
Yeah, now the other thing that's going on inshore is a snook bite. You know, we have a great snook bite happening throughout the region. And anytime we have a good amount of rainfall like we've just had, the snook are going to come out and play. They like to hang out in the fresher water around here, and with the mullet run happening, that bite, it's on. I spoke with Captain Kent Gibbons from backcountrycaptain.com, and he tells me that the Tomoka Basin is loaded up right now with those snook. Kent said they're eating hard and soft plastic baits, as well as those live finger mullet. And most of the snook in the Tomoka Basin, they're running about 15 to 23 inches, but there are some really big fish mixed in there. And Kent tells me that some of the bigger bridges south of the Tomoka River, along the intercoastal, they're holding some serious lunker-sized snook, some big oversized ones. A big live, free-line live mullet around the piling is going to be the go-to for those big bridge snook. Now there's also a good number of snook further north in the Palm Coast canals and in Pellicer Creek on the falling tide, as well as just about any freshwater run out from St. Augustine all the way up to Jacksonville. Now, speaking of Jacksonville snook, I've got one last picture here. This is the flounder pounder. He switched gears a little bit. This is Chip Davis with a nice Northeast Florida snook he caught in Palm Valley on a hard plastic swim bait.
Tommy, I gotta say, you get the crown for the best pictures this season. Thank you so much. Great stuff going on.
Thanks, guys.
Keep them coming, and we'll talk to you next week.
I'll give you my crown.
Thanks, guys.
How
See
about
ya.
that?
All right, you can have Bree's crown.
You can have my crown.
You look good in it.
Bye, Tommy.
All right, we're going to go ahead and
See
take
ya.
a look at the hot spots from the northeast strike zone region. Inshore redfish in the flooded grass throughout the entire region on the high tide, and at the inlets on the lower stages of the tide. And then offshore cobias on the wrecks and ledges out of St. Augustine in 130 to 140 foot depths.
All right, the Panhandle region is up next, and so is Rigs and Techniques with Dave Farrell at the CCA Workbench. What you got cooking over there, Dave?
I got to wear that crown once.
You did?
I did.
remember
I got to
that.
wear that crown. I look good in that damn crown.
You
I was
do.
really good at it.
You do. You made it look good.
We're talking about Amberjack, so you better eat your Wheaties if you want to catch one of those things.
Woo!
They're
Okay.
heavy.
We'll be back.
Heavy
House of
ones.
Pain, baby.
House
Coming
of
The
down.
Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation. Daiquiri Deck. Sarasota's favorite place to meet. Q-Max. Maximum saltwater protection. And Sea Sucker. Get pumped.
Hi guys, it's great to be here. In the desert, at the mall,
On the mountain?
at school, at the beach, in the Big Easy. Yeah. Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive. Look at that. It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing. It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading. At the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody. I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard and 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's now take a look at the FWC news and notes. September 26th, there is a PS boating course in Central Florida, and September 30th, a women's saltwater fishing course. For more information, visit myfwc.com. But now let's head over to the CCA workbench for some rigs and techniques.
CCA workbench, and Dave,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
going to tell you, an Amberjack is something that you don't quickly forget.
That's the only fish that I ever passed off. I was catching some bit. Well, that's not true. There's probably somebody out there who has something on me. But anyway, I was in the Keys one time, and I was doing a boat review for Pursuit, and we were down there fishing for Amberjacks, and I caught a couple of them already. We were in 400 feet of water on the old submarine wreck, and I caught a couple that weighed 70, 80 pounds, and I hooked another one, and I told the mate, "Oh man, I got the bottom," and I handed it to him. He says, "Oh no, you've got a fish on." I go, "No, buddy, you got that one. It's all you," because I didn't want to do it again. Two was enough. And that's the thing about the Amberjack. You know, he's a jackfish, so he's fighting from the bottom to the top. You know, wherever you hook him, if you hook him in midwater, or you hook him on the bottom, he's going to fight you all the way to the top.
No
He
doubt.
does not play. He's got that big moon-shaped tail and a stout body, and he's just all muscle, and he puts it to you. He's the house of pain, like you said. So what you're going to want come with some, good tackle.
Right.
20, 30-pound tackle, is minimum, especially if you're catching great big ones. That might even be too light. But this will probably handle most.
Azor 80, we loaded up with 65-pound Suffix braid.
Right, that's a 20, 30-pound rod,
Yeah.
and you should be able to handle most of the Amberjacks you'll catch. And what you want to do is you want to find them first. And they're going to be on top of any kind of structure, a reef, or wreck. If you have oil rigs in your area,
Right.
any big structure that they're going to be hanging on it. And what you do is when you come up to one of those structures, you have your sounder on and you look for them, and you'll see them. They'll be hanging in mid-water above the wreck. If you're in 200 feet of water, they'll probably be about 100 feet. They're going to be somewhere in that range, pretty close to mid-water. And when you start marking them, that's when you start fishing for them. If you're not marking them, move on to another spot.
We can drop a jig, bucktail jig down.
You could do that. First thing you want to try is if you see a bunch of them down there, a good thing to do is if you got chum, stop and do a lot of chum. Small Amberjack will be in big schools, and you'll bring them to the top usually. You'll see a lot of the little ones will come up to the top. The big ones will be down below them. And what you'll do is you'll try to chum some of those things up, and then you can throw a jig in there or a live bait. The preferable bait, though, is probably a live bait that you catch on that rig or wreck with a good sabiki rig. You get you some good sabiki rigs and drop them down there and catch you a nice anything, a grunt, a little beeliner or whatever. And if you're bringing that thing up and you start getting them picked off, you're in a good spot. And then if you can get those baits up to the surface, you drop them back down and you
Now you don't have to fight them in 200 feet. You can fight them in 70 feet.
Exactly. Start at 100, but he's probably gonna make it to the bottom before you get him stopped anyway. Especially if you're using a spinning rod.
So Dave, let me ask you something. Is there anything that we can do to help beat the pain?
Yeah.
Belts?
You got to have a belt and a rod with a gimbal on it. The spinning rod, it's got a gimbal on the bottom, and what that means, it's got the little X on the bottom that'll fit into a gimbal on a belt. And if you have a good belt and a good shoulder harness, you're gonna go a long ways to keep your back in shape, because they'll bend you over really good.
And that's that's where it hurts.
And
the
the gimbal keeps your rod steady. And if you're not a seasoned angler or your little upper body strength is not that great like mine, it keeps it from spinning. That keeps the rod from spinning in the holder. But I like to use any of these jigs. Butterfly jigs work great for them. Really great. You drop that thing all the way to the bottom, jig it up to where you see them a little bit above to where you see the marks, and then drop it back down again if you don't get a bite, and do it all over again. You don't want to go up too high, and you want to make sure that you drop below them, because they will go down to get stuff. Unlike a bass or anything like that, they'll go down and follow it. And when you're dropping a bait, sometimes they'll hit it on the way down. So they're good to eat.
Yeah. They are good to eat.
if you smoke them.
That's pretty work. I appreciate you giving us the little extra tip on the belts.
No worries.
Yeah.
Bree, I know you like using a belt, so where are we going next?
I do, and Cushits are great, and I like to jig for Amberjacks as well. All right, if you want the big bite of an AJ and plan on fishing in the Panhandle region, then listen up to your captain, Pat Deneen. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Bree. First off, congratulations
Thanks.
to you. But hey, yeah, I tell you, Amberjacks are catch and release, and they have been this whole season, and are probably more numerous than they've ever been, and that most people can remember. They're extremely popular fish in the Panhandle due to their size, their strength, and the smaller ones are good eating, especially when grilled, like Dave just mentioned. We find them in good numbers on high relief bottom spots, basically the barges, the Liberty ships, the tugboats, anything that's got a lot of relief up off the bottom, even the natural ledges that got a lot of relief. And with the closure of the Amberjacks, catch and release only, even the nearshore spots are holding some quality jacks. AJs like active baits like blue runners, herrings, threadfin herrings, all fast, strong swimming baits are preferred for the jacks. They like their meal moving. Use a long leader below your weight, or even no weight if the water's shallow enough. Maybe those wrecks under 100-foot depths. And that long leader gives your bait plenty of lead so that he's got plenty of room to run around and get the excitement factor going. And then metal jigs and heavy-headed soft plastic jigs drop below the jacks and rapidly fish upward through the water column are also really productive for the Amberjacks. Our nearshore jacks right now are running up to about 20 pounds, even on that stuff like within a couple miles of the jetties. And then the deeper water jacks can be well over 50 pounds, and that's where you enter that really bad house of pain that Dave and Rick were just mentioning.
What else you got for us offshore, Pat?
Hey, Rick, the offshore, the Gulf side, the king mackerel bite remains really good. We've been finding them around the entrance buoys to Mexico Beach, Panama City, and Pensacola. And they've also been over the natural bottom and wrecks in 80 to 200 foot of water, and also near any of the fads holding bait. And today we caught them really good out by the Liberty ship off of Fort Walton and the White Hill Reef. We were using live cigar minnows, slow trolling them around the structure. On a stinger rig, the majority of these kings are schoolies in the 8 to 12 pound range, but there's also some smokers being caught. There's a photo of 3 young men that are holding up a really nice smoking king. They caught that with Captain Mark of Backcountry Fishing Charters out of Destin. I think not last week, but just the week before last. So there are some big kings around.
That is a big king. But before we go inshore, Pat, I'm going to stop you in your tracks for a second. We want to take a look at the navionics from your region. Now, one of my favorite places is the East Bay this time of year because as the water temperatures start to cool, a lot of the marsh shorelines really start to load up with mullet. And finding those mullet is pretty easy. Just look for them skipping around. But what I noticed happens is a lot of these places that have creeks and little cuts and bayous, what happens is the redfish slide in there because of the cooler air temperatures in the evening time as well as in the early morning. So guys, if you're thinking about doing a little red fishing, simply go down and look into the marsh, look along the shorelines on low tides, and then as the tide gets high, slide into the grass and look for those redfish. You'll see them in there tailing. They look like orange pumpkins. All right, Pat, let's talk a little bit about inshore.
Oh, yeah, Rick, the mangrove snappers and the redfish are all doing their fall thing. The mangrove snappers are thick on the inlets around the jetties and the jetties and structures near the jetty. You want to anchor up current of that structure and fish a live pilchard or a shrimp on the bottom. Use a small light wire circle hook, 2 feet of 10 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, and enough lead to hold the bottom. It's a great fishery for young anglers with steady action, plenty of bites, scrappy fights on light tackle, and the mangroves are great eating as well. These snappers are running up to about 14 inches. And then finally, the redfish of all sizes are doing their fall thing. The big reds are schooling up in the inlets and also in the deeper sections of the bay. Destin Bridge has been good on a moving tide, particularly the dropping tide, fishing live baits on the bottom. The power lines north of the Hathaway Bridge in Panama City have also been good, fishing menhaden on the bottom. And occasionally these deeper bay redfish will push the baits up to the surface where they can be targeted with flies or topwater plugs, and that surface action has been pretty consistent in the eastern areas of Chattahoochee Bay. And then finally, the slot fish are being sight fished in the shallows. Look for mullet schools, like you just mentioned, that navionics tip, wading birds, and pay particular attention to creek mouths and points, just like you just mentioned. October is probably one of the best months for redfish in the Panhandle, so we can expect this fishery to just keep improving.
All right, thank you so much, Pat. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Captain Pat says inshore, you want to look for mangrove snappers. Fish the small pilchards on a Carolina rig at the East Jetty. And then offshore, groupers on natural bottom in 150 to 200 feet of water south and southeast of Panama City, Bree.
Orange pumpkins in October, huh?
Orange pumpkins in October.
Wow.
It's a trick or a treat. Trust me.
Trick or a treat. All right, coming right up in the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're headed to the southeast and southwest regions, so stay hooked and we'll be right back.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. The American Fishing Tackle Company, precision tackle and performance clothing since 1958. Best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
You each drive a Ford pickup, right?
Yes, sir. I have a Ford F-150. I've always been a Ford guy.
I have a real treat for you today.
Awesome.
I'm going to show you a next generation pickup.
Let's do this.
This new truck now has a corner step built right into the bumper.
Super cool.
The bed is made of high-strength steel, which is less susceptible to punctures than aluminum.
Aluminum is great for a lot of things, but maybe not the bed of a truck.
And best of all, this new truck is actually
Oh my.
the current Chevy Silverado.
I'm speechless. This puts my poor truck to shame.
I tell you, I might be a Chevy guy now.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to welcome our friend Eni Sanchez from Flagler Construction Equipment.
Thank you.
Eni, thank you for coming to the show. You know, I think it's really important right now to talk about all the equipment that you guys have out there through your partners about what's going on with the hurricane relief. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, Flagler Construction Equipment, first of all, we want to make sure that all your families came out through safe from the storm. But of course, now we have a big job to do. Get Florida back up on its feet. And it's already happening. But we're really excited and really proud to support the first responders, those people from FEMA that are doing the really hard work, the heavy lifting to get everybody up and going. And we're also supporting the local authorities, the municipalities, state and local. And but we're also supporting the local guys and the weekend warriors. The people are just trying to get their roads clear for their neighbors.
Yeah, you know, and the thing that comes to mind, and I saw this the other day, I was driving down the street, the roads have been cleared in a lot of the places, and more importantly, we're cleaning up backyards, cleaning up front yards. There are also guys that are now starting to put dock pylons back in.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the Takeuchi equipment that's out there in the field that makes those jobs easier, because they are certainly a huge supporter of what we're doing.
Yeah, well, Takeuchi is a great partner of ours. They have lots of great equipment. And so we're talking about compact track loaders, skid steer wheel loaders, compact wheel loaders, excavators, pretty much anything that you can think of to do the work that you got to do, we have it. And so they're great partners to work with, and they're really good equipment. So whether you want to fit it with a grapple rake, a bucket, an auger, you got some pilings you need to shore up. Pretty much anything that you can think of, we can put on one of these machines to get the job done.
Now, if a guy has an interest in a machine, how can they find out more about what Flagler Construction Equipment sells?
Sure. Well, we have locations all over the state, but if you want to go online, you can jump online to www.flaglerce.com. Or even better, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you and get that relationship going. So you can just give us a call at 954-581-4744 at our local store.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We appreciate all the extra effort that you guys are doing. We help the fact that fishermen and responders are all part of what you guys believe in, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Bree, where are we going next?
Absolutely do appreciate you and everyone here behind me from Flagler Construction Equipment Group. Let's hear from Captain Jimbo Thomas in the Casa Vieja Southeast region to see how his region fared during the storm. Hey, Jimbo.
Hey, Bree, and hey, Rick. Well, yep, as everybody knows, that Hurricane Irma passed through around 2 weeks ago, and luckily the Thomas Flyer and the rest of the charter boat fleet made it through the storm with minimal damage, if any. Now, there were a lot of boats damaged and even sunk in many of the marinas in the region, and especially down in Coconut Grove and Biscayne Bay. They took a big hit down there. But we're pretty much back to normal here, and there's been a lot of debris floating out there, both inshore and offshore. So if you're out on the water, be careful. Keep an eye out for any of that debris, because you definitely don't want to run over any of this stuff. And some of it's been big, like hunks of docks and roofs and, anything else in that matter. Well, all right, let's get to fishing here. We usually don't see too many amberjacks this time of the year, although the last couple of full moons, we've been catching a few of them on the deeper wrecks. But get over any of those deeper wrecks in the region in the 150 to 300-foot range in March, April, or May, and it's a different story. Those big AGAs will school up, especially around the full moons, and at times they become a nuisance when you're trying to catch a grouper or snapper or some other species. Now, to catch a big amberjack, big live blue runner, speedo, or pinfish, that's usually not going to last very long down there if there are any AJs around. And I like to fish a long 80-pound monofilament leader, and you use enough weight to hold the bottom, and you want to hook that live bait through the nose so it doesn't spin on the way down, and use a 9/0 to 12/0 circle hook. Now, amberjacks are also suckers for butterfly jigs and bucktail jigs. You can tip it with a whole ballyhoo or put a rubber tail on there. And you want to use some stout tackle, 30 to 50-pound tackle. That's to pull these fish away from the structure. And there's not too many fish that pull as hard as a big AJ. And usually they don't waste any time biting. So if you make a couple of drifts over the wreck without a bite, move on to the next wreck until you find those fish. And the average size nowadays is in the 20 to 40-pound range. Now, with all that hurricane debris that's been coming through offshore, there has been dolphin on a lot of it, but there's been tons of debris. You just got to find the right piece of debris. And most of the fish have been big schoolies in the 5 to 12-pound range. We've been finding those fish anywhere from 300 feet on out to 1,200 feet, but basically wherever that debris is, and each day it's been in or out. And they've been biting on the troll, on rig ballyhoo, and small lures or feathers. And then once you locate the fish, we've been throwing small live blue runners has been the best live bait, or if you got pilchers, those will work as well, or cut bait. And then we've been doing best in the blue water, but we've also had a lot of real dirty water out there, and we've been finding those floaters in the dirty water, and we've been catching the fish in that as well. And I know that debris is going to be coming through for quite a while. And I got a photo here. This is a typical dolphin catch that we've had in the last few days. Now, moving inshore, peacock bass fishing has been good in the lakes and canals of South Broward and Dade County. Best fishing has been in the middle of the day or right after an afternoon shower. You want to use small live shiners, small rapalas, and lipless crankbaits. Chartreuse is a great color, silver and black, or green and silver. And you want to work those baits extra fast. That's going to get you the most bites. And then if you got some deeper water, fish root beer colored terrorize. That's been working really good. And it seems that the artificials have been out fishing the live baits. Look for those peacocks that have been in the 2 to 3 pound range around any structure. And if you can find some clear water, that's even better. And there's also been some largemouth bass caught in those same areas as the peacock. And then the snook fishing has been good in all of the inlets throughout the region and also around those spillway canals that are dumping a lot of fresh water. The inlet fishing has been best in the evenings, fishing live pilchards, herrings, or mullet. And then working jigs along the bottom on the outgoing tides also been working. And if the water's murky, which it has been, they've been biting on both the incoming and outgoing tides. And then in the spillways, the fishing's been best in the early morning or late afternoon using live pilchards or mullet, or you can use Rapala shad wraps or jigs with soft plastic tails.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Casa Vieja region. Inshore, look for the snook in the inlets and around the jetties using live baits and flare hawk jigs. And then offshore, look for dolphin offshore around the weeds and floating debris 10 to 12 miles offshore, Bree.
Well, the Bell's Southwest region was hit very hard with probably one of the strongest parts of Irma, especially in Naples, and specifically our captain, Ronnie Houston. Ronnie, our hearts go out to you and your family and everyone affected.
Well, you know what, guys? It's really been a rough and humbling experience. You can't always get what you want, and that's what's humbling about when something like this happens, how you just have to work for what you get. But let me tell you something. Floridians are strong. We don't call this the fishing capital of the world, Florida. We're working strong over here to get back going in the Southwest region. Some of the areas that were really hit hard were Everglades City, Chokoloskee, Marco Island, Naples. As you start going up the coast, it seems to get a little bit better. Now, all the water's panic all through the coast right now. Reports are fishing starting to get better. But let me explain something to you right now. We're getting power awfully quick here. Season's getting ready to come up. As quick as we get power, plenty of gas, plenty of restaurants, plenty of hotels, and let me tell you, plenty of guides ready to go fishing and take care of their customers that come down for the season. We're strong over here. We're fighters. We're going to get things going. You're not going to keep the Southwest region down. Also, I'm getting reports on a daily basis, plenty of redfish, snook, and tarpon on the inshore side being caught. So I see it firsthand. I don't care what the news tells you. I see it. But as we go on, we're fighting. We're going to be doing it better. Don't let reports on the news alter you from coming down this season in the Southwest region. Guys will be ready. Now, also, as we talk about fishing on the inshore side, most of the people haven't gotten out. They're working hard to get their homes and stuff ready. On the inshore side, snook, with all the water and still plenty of water, spillways, culverts, and bridges, most local canals in the Fort Myers to Naples area out towards the Everglades, especially at night for snook. No need for a boat, 3 to 5 inch lip plug through the current. Also, while you're in those areas, most importantly, listen, keep your ears open. You'll hear the zones where the snook are popping. Further up in the northern end of the region, juvenile tarpon. Peace River and the Caloosahatchee River east of 75. Plenty of fish in the 3 to 20-pound range, especially early morning till it starts to warm up and less wind. Look for the rolling fish, approach with stealth, and get set up. Best bet is to use your power poles. If you approach and the fish disappear, just wait, and they'll reappear somewhere where you can see them. Poppers, flies, small lip plugs, and bass assassin sheath sads in bright colors due to the tannic water. Also, fishermen are tough. They're resilient. Some of the first phone calls I got were from fishermen from here to Texas. Having the opportunity to fish professionally like Rick and myself, Jeff Hageman, guys from Texas all the way back down were willing to give me a helping hand. So, guys, don't forget, the Southwest region is coming back strong on a daily basis thanks to most of these power guys. Don't listen to what you hear. Come on, book a guide, get out and go fishing, learn the water's new again, and come over here and enjoy yourself. Take a break from working on the house and go catch you some fish.
All right, Ronnie, thank you so much, man. I'm fired up. Me and
Me
Bree are
too.
gonna hook up the airboat as soon as we get done here, and we're coming over. All right, dude. Thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Southwest region. Ronnie says inshore, largemouth, fish the local canals and rock pits and golf courses in Collier area early in the morning or just before dark. Catch a few and then to give yourself a break. And then offshore, mangrove snapper, stump pass to Sanibel, the wrecks and ledges in 45 to 65 feet of water, chumming and dropping back small baits. You know, and Bree, I was talking to Ronnie before the show, and the one thing, the northern part of his region, Danny Latham, Matt Haig, that's in Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda area.
Right.
They are back to fishing. Danny caught over 100 snook today alone.
go.
So, guys, you just got to go.
Yeah, go and support them. It's all coming back. Everyone's positive and helping each other. And
well, whether we want to admit it or not, the truth is hurricanes are really good for fishing.
They are.
They're not good for
right.
building.
Well, there you have
but,
it.
you know, they
you
are
go.
good.
Go fishing. All right, we're headed to the Central East region next, but first we're going over to the CCA workbench to see what new products Dave has for us, and they are.
Got a lot of colorful stuff for Moldcraft, and those hurricanes aren't good for much of anything,
But
are they?
fishing.
But fishing.
But fishing. All right, guys, we'll be back.
Get out there and go fishing.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Navionics, we start where the road ends. Soft Science, supreme comfort footwear. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Real legends, exclusively at Bell's. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Hey, how do you like your contender? How do I like my contender? What's not to like?
Dude, I just saw a contender, and man, I gotta get me one.
Well, welcome back to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, and new products is something. And you know, Dave, right now there's some need for some really good cleaning products.
We've got some stuff here that's perfect for the hurricane recovery from Starbright. And start off there with that disinfectant. That's the cool Performicide, it's called, and it's a commercial grade disinfectant. I mean, you spray this stuff on any hard surface and it's going to kill what's ever on it. Mold, mildew, viruses, norovirus, I mean, hepavirus, influenza A, rhinovirus. You know, it'll get rid of all those nasty things and disinfect everything. Because you get a bunch of that water in there, spray it down, good, wipe it off. And what's really good about this stuff is you don't even have to wipe it off. You can spray on this on a surface and let it lay. And
great for
it'll kill
marble
everything.
Tile floors.
Yep.
Granite countertops.
Anything that's non-porous.
Comes in a kit.
Yep, comes in a kit. You gotta mix it together. The stuff, the stuff is kind of it's caustic. You know, it's bad. You know, it's
bad stuff.
Bad stuff. So you gotta be careful with it. But you mix it in there with with the water and let it sit for an hour, and then you can use it. You know, the same stuff goes into the boat odor eliminator. You got the boat odor eliminator and the car odor eliminator. And what you do is you take that same package and you open it up and you put it on that little wet that sponge. And put the contents of that package on that sponge. Put the sponge back in this little clamshell and close it up and put it in your boat.
You can see it's got these holes.
Yeah, and what it does is it puts off a gas, and that gas kills all those organisms that create the odors. It's not a mask. It's not an air freshener. This actually kills the things that are making the odors. I had to use this in my wife's car when it got flooded during the hurricane. So, you know, it does a really good job. It keeps that stench down and it kills all that stuff that makes the stench.
I use them all the time in the sump of the boat.
Yep.
Because it keeps the mildew out of this bilge.
Yes, it will. And this is, you know, we got generators and weed eaters and blowers and all that stuff that's going now. You need some good enzyme fuel treatment. This keeps the ethanol from eating up your stuff, especially when you store it and when you're running your generator now. If you don't run all the gas out, you need to put some of this stuff in it.
Right. This is what you need to use to pickle it for the next storm.
Exactly. So when you hit that sucker, it starts right up the next time.
All right, Dave, we got a lot of colorful stuff here, boss.
Right. Well, first we're going to do these R&R. We got some good kite clips from Ray Rocher. He went out and Ray's always perfecting stuff, and he's made these super light, ultra light kite clips. They're the M2 lightweight kite clips. And what's really good about these things is they're incredibly light. So even in really light winds, you can be flying your kite, and you can see your clips, pulling your kite down.
Yeah.
These will not. They're very, very light. They're perfect for, really, especially when the wind dies. There's a little synthetic screw in there that's a little over tight so that it fits in there and it won't vibrate out, during the day, no matter what you do. These are made to fit an owner ring. These all clip with the ring. So, that's made for an owner number 9 ring to go in there. And Ray also makes the whole line for you. If you want to just buy the clips and the line, you can get them from Ray at R&R Tackle.
Certainly one of the most inventive sail fishermen out there on the circuit.
And just a good guy, too.
Miss Brit Charter Boats.
He's a good fella, too.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Now, this is a big dredge from Moldcraft, but we're just using it to show the colors of the squids that he has now. Moldcraft has made squid forever. His Moldcraft green squirt squids, were ubiquitous on marlin boats throughout the world. So now he's making these other new squids. These are the Squirt Nation, he calls them. Really beautiful colored up squids, all made in America. All the stuff that he makes them out of comes from America, 100% American made. He's also making some really cool new colors for his lures. If you're using Moldcraft soft heads, you're way ahead of the game, in my opinion. They're my favorite lures. They're making them all these really cool colors. I really don't care about the colors. I think if you made them black, I'd be just as happy with them because I think they work great. So
we got some stuff for Bennett?
Bennett Auto Supply, we've got some really great stuff from them. They've got their PT line or performance tools. They got some really good flashlights out there now, the 1,000 lumens flashlight, the stuff that we always need, and zip ties. You can build a house with a thing of zip ties and a roll of duct tape. So
the truth is, this could be the perfect after hurricane kit.
Exactly. Go to Bennett Auto Supply and get you some stuff.
Because I know
I like these ratchets. These ratchets are
I can't find a flashlight in my house now because we've used them all and nobody put them back where they go.
They're always flying away, aren't they?
Bennett Auto Supply guys, got some really good stuff. Dave, we just don't seem to ever have enough time over here.
We still got more stuff. We'll get them next week.
Because Bree's over there waiting to send us to another region.
I am. I'm waiting on you guys. Captain Jim Ross is now checking in with us from the Bell's Central East region. So Jim, tell us what's happening up in your region.
Well, I'll tell you, Bree, I just wanted to throw a flashback to the desk there with Dave and Rick real quick. That Starbright cleaner that emits the gas that he was talking about, that kills mildew and bacteria and all that stuff. I actually just used that. My house got flooded in Irma. Not my house, my garage got flooded in Irma, and I just put 2 of those in my garage. Smells brand new in there. It's absolutely amazing. As far as an aftermath report goes, Irma really damaged the East Coast, Central East region pretty badly. A lot of docks are gone. A lot of the launch ramps are gone. A few of the launch ramps that are still open are up in the Smyrna area. The one that's right next to Outrigger's restaurant up there is still open in the fishing store. Down in the central part of the region, the Marina Park is still open, and then Kelly Park is still open. And then down to the south, they just reopened the Christensen's boat ramp. So the rest of them took a pretty good hit, but those are open for now for those of you guys and gals that are going to get out this weekend. Now, swinging over to Amberjack, they're arguably the strongest fish that swims in the ocean, and they will test your muscles from hookup all the way to the boat side, as we all know. In the Central East region, we take those guys, anywhere from 150 to 250 foot is where we end up taking those guys most of the time. We concentrate on the reefs and wrecks, and they'll usually hit just about any live bait that you want to drop to them. Now, lure anglers are really coming on with those Williamson vertical speed jigs. The 7-ounce and 9-ounce Abyss and Benthos models, they pretty much set the bar, set the standard for speed jigs. They sink quickly, they're very erratic, and so those Williamson ones are the ones you want to look for when you're out there. Now, smaller Amberjack make great table fare as well. Bigger ones, not quite so much, but anything in that 20 to 35-pound class is pretty good. Anything over 50, maybe you want to give that to your friends because they keep begging you for some fish. But anyway, going back to it, if they don't make your back hurt, you just have not caught you an Amberjack yet, because it doesn't matter what size they're going to make your back hurt. And especially those little ones are really good to take home to put on the table. Now, secondly, we've got offshore, we've got sharks. Obviously, the ocean's been rough. It's continued to stay rough. The few guys that are getting out there finding the water is still pretty dirty. And there's a lot of sharks out there. especially the sandbars. Just about every piece of structure that you drop on offshore right now is going to have sandbar sharks on it. We're also got blacktip spinners, bulls, and sharpnose that are showing up in fairly decent numbers right now. Most of our sharks, with the exception of the sharpnose, are running anywhere from about 35 or 40 pounds on the bottom side up to over 150 pounds, especially some of those bigger sandbars we talked about. Any type of bait will work. Put them on a wire rig, drop them down. You're going to have a good shot at catching you some pretty good-sized sharks and numerous sharks this week. Now, swinging inshore, snook is our next species, and the mullet run is going absolutely nuts. Rick, you know as well as I do, when that mullet run gets going, they start skyrocketing through those packs of mullet, and there's nothing more fun than to go out there to places like Sebastian Inlet, Ponce Inlet, Canaveral, and work those rock jetties with Rapala skitter walks or the new long cast lures, especially that size 12 and 14. Really working good right now because the lipless models don't go too deep, and those fish look just like a mullet, and those fish just blow them up. The greenback is working really good, as well as the new mullet finish. I've been having really good success on that one, so I suggest you guys and gals go out there and try the mullet finish in that long cast shallow. Our snook right now are working anywhere from about 28 to 38 inches. You will get some smaller fish in the runoffs that are in the rivers. And I'll tell you what else you can get in those runoffs in the rivers right now, redfish. Our water levels are still really high from Hurricane Irma, but the redfish are like swarming all over the creeks and culvert outflows in the Indian and Banana rivers right now. Another great thing to throw is the saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad. I was out yesterday, threw a bunch of them, and I tell you what, there isn't a color that doesn't work, but the silver mullet and the Houdini colors rigged on a 1/8 or 1/4 ounce assassin springlock jig head were really, really hard to beat. We couldn't keep the redfish off of them. You'll feel that thump about midway through the second or third handle turn when you cast into the outflow most of the time. And most of our redfish are running 20 to 26 inches. So the mullet fish are out on the flats, though, and not around those culvert pipes. Cast gold weedless spoons. That seems to be getting those fish to strike, and we've got fish up into the mid-30-inch range that are chasing mullet around on the flats in the Mosquito and Indian rivers right now. And I've got a picture. Zachary Cunningham was throwing a gold weedless spoon with him and his father in the Mosquito Lagoon, and he caught his first redfish, which was this nice 30-incher, after the tip that we gave him on the show a couple of weeks ago about throwing those weedless spoons in the Mosquito Lagoon.
Well, congratulations, Zachary. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the sea sucker hotspots from the Central East region. Jim says that inshore we want to go redfish, snook, trout, and tarpon. Find flowing water like culverts or creeks. Use small jigs that imitate minnows and fingerling mullet. And then offshore, amberjacks on the wrecks and reefs and 180 to 240 feet of water. Use live baits on a bottom rig.
All right, we're checking out the bite in the Central, West, and East regions when we come back right here on the Chevy, Florida
Insider Fishing Report.
You still got it.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. Startron cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti, built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Strike Zone Fishing, your fish hunt paddle store. And Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist.
Hi guys, it's great to be here. In the desert, at the mall, on the mountain, at school, at the beach, in the Big Easy. Yeah. Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive, look at that. It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing. It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading.
At the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody.
I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
Flagler Construction Equipment is your certified Takeuchi equipment dealer, servicing 55 counties in Florida. With Takeuchi, you get brute strength combined with bulletproof durability. That means low downtime and optimal production. Flagler Construction Equipment is the partner for all your Takeuchi sales, service, and rental needs, and your first and last stop for legendary customer service and support. Pros know Takeuchi. Get to know Flagler Construction Equipment by stopping by one of our 6 locations or visit us on the web at www.flaglertakeuchi.com.
Now, Rick, we do a lot of things with FWC, especially on the show, but they are doing wonderful things to help Florida rebuild after Hurricane Irma.
You're absolutely right, Bree. You know, one of the things they're doing is with the FWC, we've created on their website, the Fish and Wildlife Foundation, a place where you can go and donate. And the reason why this is so important is not necessarily if you donate money, but what people don't realize is that we have the ability to click on the fishing community and direct where we raise any funds.
That's
so
great.
To me, that's really important because the FWC has the ability to help guys in Naples and Marco, as well as the Florida Keys. And
the hardest
it's the hardest hit people. But you know, guys, the one thing I want to tell you, if you want to make a donation and enjoy something, like Randy said and Ronnie said, go fishing, because what that's going to do is those guys got to buy bait, they got to buy gas, they got to buy ice. Yeah. And so that whole cycle continues to feed the economy, and that's really important.
Awesome. All right, well, the StarTron Central West region with Captain Jeff Page is now up for discussion. So tell us, Page, how is your region doing?
My region's doing great, and I hope everyone throughout our entire state of Florida is doing good, especially in Randy and Ronnie's region. And real quick, Bree, congratulations on the wedding.
Oh, thank you so much, Paige.
You were a beautiful bride.
Thanks.
But back to the Amberjack. You know, Rick, in the StarTron Central West region, the AJs are not usually the big targeted species, but for all our offshore anglers, he's easily caught, usually holding on the same wrecks and reefs and ledges that our groupers and snappers are caught on, anywhere from 30 feet out to 130 feet. He's taken year-round, but early spring till late fall are your best months, with some of the biggest fish being taken in the fall. Cool thing about the Amberjack is once you've located him, you can bring him to the surface by chumming with live pilchards or thread fins, and then throw a variety of surface plugs. I suggest using stuff with heavy hardware, or using the Williamson Vortex jigs in pink and white, chartreuse and white. It's a deadly lure that works real well for the Amberjacks. Some of your better live baits, pinfish, blue runners, big hand-sized pilchards or thread fins. Although he's not known for his table fare, he is pretty good smoke. I have a big Amberjack photo tonight of angler Craig Jackson with a big AJ he caught with Captain Randy Powell out of Venice.
All right, what else you got for us offshore,
Red
bub?
grouper. You know what, Rick? With all that weather we had, I think it pushed both the red and gag groupers in a little bit into that 60 to 100-foot range. Live pinfish, pilchard, squirrelfish are great baits, along with your standard frozen sardines for backup. Look for the reds averaging anywhere from 6 to 14 pounds. Moving inshore, species 1, snook. Snook fishing still remains the mainstay in my region. Even with all the fresh water being discharged out of all the creeks and rivers throughout the entire region, snook bite remains strong from Port Charlotte to Tampa Bay. Look for snook holding not only in the passes, but along the beaches and also in the mouth of all your creeks and canals, such as Whiddens Creek and Catfish Creek to the south, Philippi Creek, Bowleys Creek, and Whitaker Bayou to the north, along with all the little subsidizing canals around the Manatee River, Caracia Bay, and Palmasola Bay. Live bait's been good, but don't be afraid to throw a big topwater plug like the chartreuse bone, super spook, or skitterwalk. As far as fishing in the pass, Big Sarasota Pass and Longbow Pass, lots of snook have been hitting real well on the outgoing tides. I've got a nice snook photo tonight of Michael Russo with a nice snook release there.
That's a nice fish, Paige. All right, what else you got for us?
Last species, redfish. One other species that doesn't seem to mind the tannic water, Rick, is from all the rainwater we've been having,
is he continues to improve as the redfish throughout the entire region. More and more groups of fish showing up on the south of the flats down towards Turtle Bay as well as Bull Bay along the west wall, and then up to the north in Palmasola Bay and on the flats out front of Terracea Bay and Rattlesnake Key. Topwater plugs and gold spoons will help you locate the fish. Then a soft plastic like the Mississippi Hippie on a 1/4 ounce. Chartreuse jig head, tough to beat. All in all, as we roll into October, look for the redfish action just to get better. Got a photo tonight of longtime client Para Luigi from Italy, and I want to give a big shout out to Ron at Crowder Brothers Hardware for letting me have your generator that he had for you, letting me have it, and it really helped me a lot. So big thanks to Uncle Ron.
But why did I get the bill for it?
No, I don't. If you did, then he double charged us.
I'm just kidding you. All right, Bud, thank you so much. We're going to take a look at the Daiquiri Deck Central West hotspots. Inshore, Captain Page says snook, nighttime fishing around the dock lights and intercoastal waterway bridges from Venice south to Inglewood has been really good. And then fish the outgoing tide from midnight till daylight. And then offshore, gag groupers and ice gags have moved in. Some are holding on hard bottom ledges and wrecks in 80-foot range, Bree.
You got the bill because you're the papa. That's how that works.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for telling me.
You're welcome.
All right,
the
girl.
East region is here, and Captain Mike Holliday says the big AJs are deep, so adventurers beware. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing great, Bree. How about you? How's married life?
Oh, you know, it's great. A couple days in.
Excellent.
It's going well.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It'd be the best thing you ever did. You married your best friend, you'd be really happy.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Yes, I did.
So, you know, when it comes to Amberjack, it seems like the deeper wrecks have the largest fish. Just about any wreck or artificial reef or even natural reef in 60 feet of water or more will hold AJs in my region. So that means like the Amazon, the Halsey, the David T, and the Draga. They'll be covered with enough 15 to 20-pound AJs to make your anglers, you know, feel that burn from a running donkey. Or you can also run out to the Mullifin or Rankin or Wickstrom Reef in deeper water and see if you can pop a hernia or, you know, get a fish big enough to make you throw up afterwards. Anytime you're amberjack fishing, you want to make a drift over the wreck, mark the fish so you know where they're schooled and how deep they're schooled, then circle back around, drop a live threadfin, a sardine, a pilchard, or a blue runner, drop it down to that depth. Mullet will work just about as well. Drift back to the fish. You don't know how big the fish are going to be, so most guys use 50 to 80-pound tackle, a 7/0 to 9/0 circle hook, and enough weight just to get the baits down quickly without spinning. You can also use, Jeff Page talked about him, the Williamson Vortex jig. I really like the sardine and mackerel colors with that jig, but it's just pretty much money on those amberjack. Average amberjack in my region is going to be 10 to 30 pounds, but you got to expect to find fish to 60 pounds or more on those deeper wrecks. The other thing we got going, there's a lot of floating weeds and debris offshore, you know, holding dolphin, but you really have to find that clean water to find the dolphin, which means you got to get out to about 300 feet of water or more right now. Most of those fish are in the 10-pound range, either in singles, doubles, or schools, and then there's the occasional 20-pounder in the mix. There's not a ton of fish, so you want to run and gun and cover a lot of water until you find a good stretch of weeds or rip that's holding fish. Best bet's to throw ballyhoo or, you know, feather and strip combinations that allow you to cover a lot of water, but you can always just throw a cast net, load up on mullet before heading out, then run out to anything that you see floating and toss out a live mullet. And then when the seas come, you can always load up the live little finger mullet and just slow troll them along the rips and edges and do pretty well. So the average dolphin in my region right now is 8 to 12 pounds.
All right, Mike, let's go inshore, bub.
Well, the best snook fishing's been around the inlets and bridges and seawalls that are close to the inlets. You know, the Indian River and the Intercoastal Waterway seem like they're holding most of the fish. There's a lot of water jumping out of the St. Lucie and Loxahatchee rivers, and that's kind of hurt the bite in those areas, except around the inlets where they're spilling out. There's still a lot of fish around the inlets feeding on finger mullet that are swinging through the inlets on the tides, and also off the beaches in Hope Sound and in Jensen Public Beach. With that mullet pushing inside, look for the seawalls off of Old Port Cove in Palm Beach County and along the intercoastal between Jupiter and Hope Sound to have a lot of fish on them. The key really here is to find where the mullet are schooled up and pushing along the shoreline. We're getting those extreme high tides. Just follow those mullet schools. You'll find plenty of fish. With snook locked on the mullet, you want to throw topwater plugs, eye dappers, swimming plugs, any of those in black and gold or black and silver, depending on the clarity of the water. If it's real tannic stained, black and gold's color. As always, a 5 to 10 inch mullet put up against the seawall is going to be money on those fish, even in the middle of the day. Average snook's going to be 5 to 15 pounds. I got a photo there. That's 7-year-old John Hobson with a snook that he caught at the St. Lucie Inlet. That fish ate a live finger mullet. He was fishing with his grandfather, Jimmy Walt. Those two guys go out every weekend and fish, it seems like.
Wow.
The other thing I got going, if you like to chase tarpon, then you need to pick an inlet in my region and be on the water at dawn or dusk over the next couple of weeks. That's when the fish are chasing the mullet schools that are coming down the coast. Seems like right at dusk, those fish get bottled up around the north jetty of all our inlets and then push into the inlets, and you can find those tarpon that are just cartwheeling in the middle of the bait schools. There's also been some fish around the bridges at night and on the mullet schools that are traveling down the beach in the middle of the day. But the best bites definitely in the inlets and definitely at dawn and dusk. What's kind of interesting is that most of those fish, they're all different sizes, from 10 pounds to 110 pounds. So you really don't know what tackle to target them with. I'm seeing a lot of 20 to 50 pound fish in the last week. So I've been fishing with 20-pound gear with live mullet, 50-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 4.0 VMC tournament circle hook. You can also do well with topwater plugs and swimming plugs on those fish, but you'll lose a lot of those fish to pull hooks, and then eventually you're going to have to land one, and that's never fun to do with a lure. So make sure you have a de-hooking tool.
Good advice, Mike. Hey, speaking of advice, I need some on bass fishing. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, I was talking to Captain Steve Niemiller of Orlando of BassOnline.com, and he said there was this great bite on Lake Butler, but that was before the storm. It was one of those 40-fish mornings throwing flukes and open water around the hydrilla, but since the storm, that bite's kind of died off. What is really going strong right now is the Harris chain, and in particular Lake Eustis on the Harris chain, but all the lakes, anywhere you can find moving water. If you can find the spots where the water's flowing in and out of the lake, it's like a 30 to 40 fish morning on bass right now. And a lot of big fish, a lot of 4, 5, 6, 7-pound fish in that mix. Throw white spinnerbait, weightless, June bug-colored tap-out worm, or any dark-colored 6-inch worm, rigged Senko style. Pop it up in the moving water and swim it along the bottom. You'll crush those big fish that are looking for anything being swept along in the current. That's mostly bluegill, but also some shad in the mix. So, find the current on the Harris chain right now. You'll be in the bass all day, and it seems like the bite that nobody's fishing is in the afternoon. So when people are getting off of work, and particularly on the days when it rains, cools that water temperature down, and again, makes the water flow, and you can get in there and have a really, really good afternoon, evening on the fish on the Harris chain right now.
All right, thank you so much there, Captain Mike. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the East region. Inshore, tarpon and snook in Fort Pierce Inlet on the last of the outgoing tide use swimming plugs, jigs, and live mullet. And then offshore, dolphin and tuna to 300 to 400 feet of water off Palm Beach. You want to troll ballyhoo or feathers and watch for those birds. Sounds like if you want to sleep late and use bait, you can catch anything in the East region.
That was good. Sleep late and use bait.
I've been using that
since
before you were born.
Oh, all right.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, my bad. Well, we've almost come to a close, but the Northwest region still needs its time in the spotlight, so stay tuned in right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Sorry, I'm still young.
I can't help that you're working for a dinosaur.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. The IGFA, conservation through education. Get your hands wet. Flagler Construction Equipment, your exclusive Takeuchi dealer. And Okuma, inspired fishing.
When you're moving a big offshore boat, it's all about thrust and trust. For thrust, nothing compares to the Yamaha purpose-built 5.3-liter V8 Power Pioneer. And for trust, Yamaha's new F350C model becomes the only outboard in its horsepower class to feature a 5-year limited warranty. Never settle for less than complete confidence and control in the open water. That's Yamaha V8 Power. Get the best and forget the rest.
glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
You each drive a Ford pickup, right?
Yes, sir. I have a Ford F-150. Always been a Ford guy.
And I have a real treat for you today.
Awesome.
I'm going to show you a next generation pickup.
Let's do this.
This new truck now has a corner step built right into the bumper.
Super cool.
The bed is made of high-strength steel, which is less susceptible to punctures than aluminum.
Aluminum is great for a lot of things, but maybe not the bed of a truck.
And best of all, this new truck is actually
Oh my.
the current Chevy Silverado.
I'm speechless. This puts my poor truck to shame.
I tell you, I might be a Chevy guy now.
Yeah.
Today's Powerful tip is about the Micro. Now guys, the Micro is certainly a great product for any of you guys that have a boat, a skiff, a kayak that weighs under 1,500 pounds. Now let's talk a little bit about how the Micro works. Simply, we have a battery pack that you can purchase as part of your Micro, or you can tie it into your battery on your boat. It works just like its brothers and sisters in the Power Pole line. By simply pushing down twice on a key fob will deploy the spike. When you want to move, you just hold the up button, move the Micro a little bit, and you can move on down along the way. Now keep in mind that if you already hold a spike or have a spike, that staking out can really be problematic. You can keep your spike and purchase a Micro, and now you're actually in the great business of having a technical poling skiff where you have a lot more control. The other thing that I really like about the Micro is how easy it is to simply screw 4 bolts into your deck, and now your Micro is ready to go. I love the Micro, and make sure you check it out at Power Pole, and that's today's Power Pole Tip of the Week.
High five for the Micro. Oh,
Boat
you
wake.
just did that.
Boat wake.
Oh man, the Flagler Construction Equipment Northwest region is about to be dissected by your Captain Jeff Hageman. So listen up if fishing is on the agenda this weekend. Boat week.
Well, first of all, congratulations to Bree and Joe.
Thank you.
And I hope everybody fared well during the storm. We had a lot of water sucked out in our region, and actually it sucked out Mobile Bay as far north as that. So I wasn't quite sure what the fishing was going to do, but those that ventured out reported some really good fishing. Moving into Amberjack, they can be caught throughout my entire region, 60 feet of water and out. You want to fish around structures like reefs, wrecks, springs. That's where they're usually going to be found in large numbers. They're usually going to be schooled up above these structures, and they're very aggressive feeders, so they like to chase their prey. With that being said, fresh live baits, anything that moves fast, pinfish, pigfish, thread fins, blue runner are all great live baits. A live well full of sardines chum behind the back of the boat in the tide can bring these fish up right in the back of the water column and get them, bust them on top, which is quite a sight to see and pretty cool. As far as artificials go, diamond jigs, butterfly jigs, bucktail jigs work well when the fish are deep. When their fish are on top, Williamson poppers and subsurface baits and surface baits by Williamson work really well. When you get those fish chummed up to the top of the water, you can get those topwater baits, make for some great strikes when they come through the water and start chasing it. Our fish average anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds and can get up to 80. And then moving offshore to our second species, Captain Jason Lineberger of Ruthless Fishing Charters out of St. Pete reports the snapper bite's been good right now in 40 feet of water, so the fish are schooled up on their artificial reefs. Fish up to 4 pounds are being quite frequently on a tail hook shrimp, on a 1/0 circle hook, or a small pinfish on an ocker rig. Both of those are really effective. He says the water's been really dirty since the storm, but the bite's been pretty consistent. Moving inshore, Captain Mario Costello out of Tall Tail Charters out of the Plantation on Crystal River reports a good redfish bite around the mangrove shorelines and backcountry waters of Ozello. He's targeting them midway through the incoming tide on the points and shorelines that are facing the current. He's using live shrimp or pinfish on a 3/0, 4/0 circle hook. Most of the redfish in his region, or in his part of the region, have been anywhere from 24 to 30 inches.
staying up in that area, in the Cedar Key area, Captain Jimbo Keith of Saltwater Assassin Fishing Charters out of Cedar Key reports the redfish bite's been on fire, and it's been as good as it gets. Big schools have really moved in around the islands. Cut mullet fished in the bottom has been the best bait, but they've also been willing to eat our officials pretty good. The baits producing what's best for him have been a gold spoon or a Bass Assassin Red Daddy spinnerbait with an electric chicken tail on the back of it. He's also been catching quite a few trout in the shallower grass flats as well. The B-52 Super Sounder cork made by Double X tackle rigged with a Saltwater Assassin jig beneath it seems to call him in pretty good. And I've got a couple photos from Captain Mario and Captain Jimbo of some great redfish they caught this week out on a trip.
Nice, looking good there, dude. What else you got for us?
Captain Mike Anderson of Real Amherst out of Tampa Bay reports the snook bite right now has been good on the incoming tide and the outgoing tide from up the bay down to St. Pete. He's fishing creek mouths, channels, and the beaches and passes. A free-line sardines up in the bay has been working the best. And went out towards St. Pete and fishing those passes, weighted pinfish, sardine, grass grunt, and the passes worked really well. And also on the beach in that swash channel, right where the waves hit the beach, in that little deep depression, those little buck snook are still out there, and they're right next to the beach. And you want to...
Hag, I got a question for you. If you were going to go fishing tomorrow, what you going to go fish for, bub? All right, well, I guess I'll answer that for him. I know what I would go do. Probably go to Tarpon Key in St. Pete. There's some big redfish that have moved in there. Obviously, those guys this time of year love to chum form. Rob Gorder's a king at it, Mike Anderson. Guys, remember this. Charter a guide and you can really learn and shorten the learning curve down a whole bunch by going with a fishing guide.
But you have to listen.
That's right. So great report from the Flagler Construction Equipment Northwest region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots inshore, snook along the beaches and passes and creek mouths. Use live sardines, pinfish for bait, and then offshore mangrove snapper on high relief structure in 20 to 75 feet of water, tail hook, a shrimp on a 1-0 circle hook, or a small pinfish on a knocker rig.
All right, the reports are in, and we've covered you for all of your weekend AJ adventures and more. But don't go away, because when we come back, we're seeing what we're fishing for next week.
What? Hi guys, it's great to be here in the desert, at the mall, on the mountain, at school, at the beach, in the Big Easy. Yeah. Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive. Look at that. It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing. It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading.
But at the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody.
I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha VMAX SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. VMAX SHO. The pack is growing.
When you're paid to put fish in the boat, you don't mess around with the thing that puts fish in the boat. Always use the best line.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes, special segments, and updated fishing reports from your region right on our homepage. Just head to ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. All right, guys, next week, make sure to tune in because we are talking all about the yellowtail.
I like them. I like them a lot.
What is it about a yellowtail you like, Dave?
Their tastiness.
They're tasty.
That's what I like about it. There's a lot of them usually.
Coconut oil and breadcrumbs.
I have no problem catching them
so
either
good.
for some reason. I'm pretty good at it.
I remember we were down in the Keys with
So,
Randy.
I'm always with Randy. That's
All
why.
right, guys. Thanks for
Student
tuning in. We'll
adventure.
see you next week.
Hey guys from Flagler, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
See ya.